All right, ready to dive into some seriously dark history?
Always up for a challenge.
Today, it's the Manson family murders.
Yeah, one of those events that just stays with you decades later.
It's more than just true crime, you know.
Right, it gets under your skin, makes you think about the dark side of human nature.
Exactly. You've probably heard the name Manson, but today we're going deeper. Like, why does this case still grip our imagination after all this time?
And what does it tell us about manipulation, about vulnerability?
Especially during those chaotic times.
Totally, you can't separate the crimes from the era.
So let's rewind back to the late 1960s. Summer of love, Vietnam, a whole generation disillusioned with the establishment.
Searching for something more.
Yeah, and this is key to understanding how Manson, a career criminal, no real leadership qualities to speak of,
Right, not your typical charismatic figure.
managed to build a following.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Totally. He was 34, ex-con, manipulative, controlling,
Yet he drew in these lost souls, mostly young people.
looking for belonging.
A sense of purpose.
And he preyed on that, tapped into the anxieties of the time, promised them this twisted utopia.
Helter-skelter, he called it.
Well, it was helter-skelter, exactly.
Not a well-defined plan, really. More like a jumble of ideas about an apocalyptic race war.
Which he believed was imminent. Right?
Yeah. He got it from misinterpreting the Beatles, other sources too.
Wild. So he used this vision to instill fear.
Absolutely. Dependency too.
Yeah.
Classic cult tactics.
It's chilling. Sleep deprivation, controlling their diets, constantly bombarding them with his twisted philosophy,
Creating his own reality, basically.
where he was the ultimate authority.
And within that isolated environment, he could really ramp up the manipulation.
So there was the love bombing,
Yeah, showering them with affection,
harsh criticism,
rejection,
total emotional dependence, made it almost impossible to break free.
and then the helter-skelter prophecy itself. How did this incoherent vision actually lead to real-world violence?
Well, Manson believed that by inciting a race war, he could, speed up the apocalypse.
Right. And then emerge as a leader in the aftermath.
And his followers, they truly believed they were carrying out his divine will,
Totally indoctrinated. The thought they were acting on a higher purpose.
even though it was all driven by fear and manipulation.
Exactly. It's tragic.
The Tate LaBianca murders especially were meant to shock and terrify.
Absolutely.
Sharon Tate, a rising star, 8-month pregnant, brutally murdered in her own home.
Along with 4 friends.
Then the LaBiancas the next night, Leno and Rosemary, a seemingly random couple.
Just targeted in their home.
It was orchestrated chaos, fueling his vision.
And the impact of these murders went way beyond the victims themselves.
Right, it shattered the innocence of the 60s counterculture.
Exposed to darkness beneath the surface.
I wonder about that. Was it truly naive, the counterculture? Or was there already this disillusionment, this sense that the dream was fading?
Ooh, good question.
Did Manson's actions just accelerate what was already happening?
It's complex. The counterculture was about peace and love, sure. But it wasn't immune to human nature.
There are already tensions there.
And the Manson family murders, with all their brutality,
Yeah, the darkness.
they acted as a catalyst, I think.
Yeah.
Brought those tensions to the forefront.
Forced people to confront the fragility of their ideals.
Exactly.
This case isn't just about one man's madness.
Right.
It's about power dynamics, how groups work.
Susceptibility to manipulation. The dangers of blind acceptance.
How charisma can be used to exploit vulnerabilities.
And how even intelligent people can fall prey to that.
Especially when they're searching for belonging, for purpose.
Absolutely.
So we've set the stage, the cultural context, Manson's ideology, the horrific crimes.
Yeah.
But how did he actually gain such control over his followers? What specific tactics did he use?
That's the million-dollar question.
What made them so susceptible to his influence? We'll dive deeper into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Manson, he was a master manipulator, used a whole bunch of psychological tactics to control his followers.
Like what? Give us the specifics.
Well, sleep deprivation was a big one.
Ah, yeah, class.
Kept them up for days on end, disorients you, makes you more suggestible.
Makes sense. Breaks you down.
Exactly. More malleable to his will.
Wow.
And then controlling their diet, limiting food, sometimes giving them hallucinogens.
Oh, so messing with their minds even further.
Yeah, weakening their resistance. Made them dependent on him.
It's scary how effective that can be. Physical and psychological manipulation all rolled into one.
Right. And then, on top of all that, there's thought reform.
Thought reform, that sounds intense.
It is. Basically, systematically breaking down someone's beliefs and replacing them with new ones.
So he wasn't just controlling their actions, he was trying to control their minds.
Exactly.
How did he even do that?
Constant bombardment with his own twisted philosophy,
Oh, yeah.
long rambling lectures,
Oh, yeah, I've heard about those.
half-truths, misinterpretations, outright lies, all designed to paint him as some kind of prophet.
I've read that he drew inspiration from all over the place. The Bible, the Beatles, even Scientology.
Anything to fit his agenda.
Yeah.
He created this distorted reality where his followers thought they were part of something huge, like they were chosen.
And to maintain that control, I imagine there was a lot of fear, intimidation.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Dissent was not tolerated. Threats, violence, public humiliation.
Wow. Punishing anyone who questioned him?
Yeah. Total culture of fear and obedience.
Yeah.
Almost impossible to break free from.
It's hard to even imagine the pressure they must have been under.
It's intense.
Yeah.
And yet, even after his arrest, his conviction,
Yeah.
many of his followers remained loyal.
That's what blows my mind. How
Yeah.
can you stay loyal to someone who led you down such a dark path?
It's the cult dynamics. The indoctrination runs deep.
I guess for many of them, he was their world. Family, leader, everything.
Right. He's their whole sense of meaning, purpose,
It's like they were so tangled up in his web of lies that they couldn't see a way out.
and being isolated from the outside world, that just intensifies things.
Cut off from family, friends, anyone who could challenge Manson's narrative.
It's a stark reminder that anyone can be vulnerable to this, especially when you're searching for belonging, for purpose.
This wasn't just about Manson's madness, then.
No, it goes way beyond that.
It's about charisma, vulnerability, how these things play out in groups.
It shows how easily we can be swayed by people who prey on our insecurities, promise us easy answers.
People say the Manson family, they were a product of their time, a dark reflection of the counterculture. But it feels like the lessons go way beyond the 60s.
Oh, for sure.
Manipulation, charismatic leaders, groupthink, those things are timeless.
Yeah, the Manson story is like a cautionary tale for all of us. Be wary of anyone who claims to have all the answers.
You got to think critically, question authority.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maintain those strong social connections. Seek out different perspectives.
It's like a safeguard against manipulation.
The Manson family murders, they really shook American society, exposed the dark side of the counterculture, made people question human nature itself.
But beyond the horror, the shock,
There are lessons to be learned.
about our own beliefs, blind faith, the need to think for ourselves,
Absolutely. It's a chilling chapter in American history.
but also an opportunity for reflection, for learning.
I think so.
So we've talked about the social context of Manson's ideology, how he controlled his followers.
A lot to unpack there.
Now let's look at what happened after the murders. What was the immediate impact? How did the case shape our understanding of cults, of manipulation?
Big questions.
We'll explore that in the final part of our deep dive. These murders, they weren't just a crime, a cultural earthquake almost.
Yeah, huge impact.
Yeah.
Especially in California, I think. This feeling of panic, paranoia,
Makes sense.
and for the counterculture movement. Well, it was devastating, really.
Here was this group rejecting mainstream values, embracing free love.
And they commit these horrific acts.
It challenged everything the movement stood for.
Right. All those ideas about peace and love.
Like a dark mirror, showing the potential for things to go wrong,
Right.
for idealism to turn sinister.
Exactly. And then the media frenzy that followed.
It just blew everything up.
The Manson family became this media sensation. Their lifestyle, Manson's pronouncements, the gruesome details of the murders,
It was everywhere.
newspapers, TV screens, fueled this fear that society was unraveling.
Yeah, like the old rules didn't apply anymore.
Right. And it also kicked off this fascination with cults, with the psychology of manipulation.
Became a household word, practically.
People started to understand the danger of charismatic leaders, how they exploit vulnerabilities.
The Manson case, it almost became a cultural touchstone,
For sure. A way to understand the dark side of human nature, the allure of extremism,
Those questions about conformity, obedience to authority.
the potential for evil, even in utopian communities. It made people confront those things.
And it feels like we're still grappling with those questions today.
Oh, absolutely. Look at extremist groups, online conspiracy theories.
It's all there.
The Manson case reminds us that manipulation, groupthink.
It can happen anywhere.
We need to think critically, question authority, be wary of anyone claiming to have all the answers.
So much to think about. As we wrap up our deep dive here,
Yeah.
It's clear the Manson family murders are more than just a true crime story.
Way more.
A chilling reminder about how fragile things are.
About the power of manipulation.
It still fascinates us, horrifies us after all these years.
I think because it forces us to look at the darker parts of ourselves. The potential for evil in unexpected places.
And it challenges us, right, to be more aware.
More discerning. More critical in how we think. Because ultimately, protecting ourselves from manipulation, it starts with us. Being vigilant, questioning what we're told, being wary of anyone who tries to control us.
Powerful stuff.
The Manson family murders, they might have happened over 50 years ago, but the ripples are still felt today.
Yeah, it's a cautionary tale. It reminds us that the fight against manipulation, the search for truth,
It never ends.
it's a constant process. Requires us to stay vigilant, to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world around us.